Hello, Vedanta.
Hi, Bede. It was great talking to you about Vedanta last time, but I do have a question.
Shoot.
You know, we are so used to a plan of approach in Vedanta, and you talked about light, and you talked about reflection, hearing and reflection, listening and reflection. But where is the system behind this? Can you explain that to me?
Yeah. Now, it's a very interesting point. In the West, and in this thing of basically you got theory and then you got practice. So you want a theory to practice. Does that make sense? So you want to. So the sequence is: I'm going to get the theory, and this has certain practicalities in everyday life. We learn a theory, and then we put the theory into practice, and the practice is then we're going to make real the theory somehow, right? Now, so basically, if Vedanta was a theory, it'd just be another school of thought. It'd be another theory in a world of theories. Now, one of the hardest things, because Vedanta is unique in this way, the uniqueness is missed because people will assume that it's a theory about life, not a vision in which we see life.
Yeah.
They'll think that it's because, you see, Vedanta isn't a system. Vedanta is a way of seeing. It's simply a way of seeing. It can't be systematized. It's a vision.
Right.
Now, this is very hard for people to understand because there's books been written about Vedanta and there's talks. They assume what is being done is a theory is being presented. Then they can apply the theory.
Yeah.
This is, you see, what happens is that what they say in Vedanta is a means of knowledge. You know how when I'm sitting in front of a tree and I open my eyes, I have my eyes. They're a means of knowledge for me, aren't they? If I was blind, I couldn't see
Yes.
I couldn't see a tree. But once if I've got eyes, the eyes provide and deliver me knowledge. They deliver me a knowledge of a tree.
Yes.
And basically no will is involved.
Yes.
I'm in front of a tree and I've got my eyes closed, and you say, I want you to open your eyes, but I don't want you to see what's in front of you. I won't be able to help myself.
Seeing just happens. I mean, yes.
The seeing happens because the means of knowledge comes into operation. And the means of knowledge in this sense is the eye. I've got means of knowledge to hear sounds, my ears.
Yeah.
They just come into operation. Now, there's a strange idea, which is not, it's so new in a sense and different, is that a traditional teacher in Vedanta uses the words of the Vedantic scriptures as a means of knowledge. In other words, they skillfully use the words. So there you are, you're sitting listening, and as you're listening, you don't pick up concepts. Through the words, you actually see what the teacher sees. And so what happens is, because you're seeing what the teacher sees, a whole new vision is introduced into your mind. Now, the normal standpoints, we're full of ways of seeing that have been unconsciously formed in us. We have a way of seeing ourselves. I'm an idiot, I'm happy, I'm stupid, I'm marvelous. We have all of these self-notions, which are ways of seeing ourselves. That we didn't form in us, they just spontaneously occur. We find ourselves seeing ourselves in this way. We have all these ways of seeing other people. They're mean, they're terrible, or whatever. We've got various views and standpoints on people based on our experience. These standpoints or ways of seeing have been formed in us as the result of our experiences with others, particularly when we were younger. And then we've got ways of seeing the world. Now, the thing is that I think it's we could say it's fairly true, that by the time we're 6 years old, we've basically, our ways of seeing are fairly crystallized. We've got a sense of who we think we are. And we've got a sense of who other people are in relation to us.
Yes.
And we've got a sense of what is life like.
Yes.
And these are all notions. The problem is and when we see life this way, we experience life the way we see it. The way we see life is determining it. So what happens is we have this dialectic between ways of seeing that just simply we just take to be true. We don't see them as ways of seeing, by the way.
Yeah.
We're not aware of ways. As far as we're concerned, we're looking at reality.
Yes.
We just that is our basic underlying assumption, that the experience we're having, because we go by experience, is true. So if we experience the world as harsh, we don't know that we're having a way of seeing that the world is harsh. We just are having the experience the world is harsh, and we believe it.
Yes.
Because there's no other measure. We judge by experience.
Yes.
We experience ourselves as a certain kind of person.
Yeah.
We don't even assume it's wrong. That's the basis. How we experience ourselves was what we assume to be true. And from that basis, we act. How we experience others, we just assume that it's true. Because the experience, we base our actions on our experience. What we don't see as our experience is wholly determined by how we see it. And we don't know the notions that we have, like the world sucks. We don't know we're having a notion about the world that the world sucks. We are experiencing that the world sucks, that it's hard, or that it's difficult. So what's introduced, and these ways of seeing are unconscious. They've been formed in us. They're nothing to do with our awareness and discrimination. Now, when we listen to a teacher, what happens is we go above the normal notions that we have, and then we have a listening mind. So our awareness is there, and we have this faculty of discrimination that can tell what's true and what's not true. And as we're listening, the words of the teacher become a means where we find ourselves seeing as the teacher sees. We're not trying to see that way. We're not trying to believe it or disbelieve it, accept it or unaccept it. We just simply find ourselves seeing. So what happens is a vision that is consciously recognized becomes active in us.
Yes.
And that vision is entirely different from the ways of seeing that have been formed in us unconsciously.
Yes.
Entirely. And then from that point on, we have this dialectic between our normal way of seeing, which goes contra to the vision of that the teacher is unfolding to us. And you might say, well, how can I tell whether my experience is the vision or not? Whenever you're having an experience that is full of unhappiness or you find difficult, that you're in friction with, whenever you find any form of disturbance or unhappiness, the basis of that is a way of seeing. And then what we do is we bring this new way of seeing, which has been consciously adopted, consciously discovered. Does that make sense? And what we do is we then the practice of Vedanta is when we recognize that once we've got this way of seeing in us, we can then see when we've gone away from it, can't we?
Yes.
Before
yes, please continue, Bede. Sorry, I interrupted you.
So what happens is that when we have this way of seeing, we now have a measure, because then every time we have an experience that is not in harmony with this vision, we know that we're no longer seeing from the vision.
Yes.
And the practice of Vedanta essentially and fundamentally is the recognition that first of all, that I'm not seeing as I have understood from the teacher.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing through the vision of Vedanta, and then a shifting back to that vision. This is fundamentally what the practice of Vedanta is. It is not a system. It is not a philosophy we apply. What it is, it's a way of seeing which we abide in, consciously abide in. And when we recognize we've fallen away, we bring ourselves back. Is that clearer?
You know, it's so clear, Bede, that you got to have the right way of seeing, and these words which you say are mirrors, as you call. And you know, there are so many points which you bring in, so that this knowledge just happens in you. But what really caught my attention was that it's the shifting back, recognizing that you've moved away from the vision, recognizing the friction and shifting back, which is the fundamental practice that makes it doable.
That's right. And we can only shift back when we recognize right now, right where we are as we are, is where the problem is. And then right where we are as we are, right where we are, is where the solution is. It's us seeing clearly what is through the vision.
It went really fast. I mean, recognizing the problem right here, right now, as I am, was clear. But recognizing the solution right here, right now, that's a tall call for me.
That's the one that's the one we're going to go into. But all I'm saying is that what's important to understand is we're not dealing with a system here. We're dealing with you see, if I'm in a dark room, the only thing that can resolve the darkness is the introduction of light.
Yes.
And that enables me to see what I haven't seen before. Without the introduction to light, my mind is just dark, basically. And I'll come up with things in a desperate way to try and deal with my problems. But it's the clarity of the vision that resolves the experience, that transforms the experience of ourselves, it transforms the experience of other people, and it transforms the experience of the world. And if this transformation is not happening, we are not practicing Vedanta.
Clear, Bede, that it's not a system and transformation. Wow, that's a lot of matter on these 10. It's packed with knowledge, these 10 minutes.
Okay, very, very nice to talk to you, Vedanta. See you next week.
Thank you. Yes,
Bye-bye.
see you. Bye-bye.